I'm Dipak Dasgupta, lead economist of South Asia. We are very pleased to introduce the first South Asia update. The report covers three main themes or messages or topics. The first is that South Asia is recovering rapidly and bouncing back from the crisis, the global financial crisis that we had. The strength of the recovery is comparable to East Asia's. South Asia is expected to grow by 7% in this year and will probably grow at close to 8% in 2011. Underlying this rapid recovery are several factors, not least the strong government policy responses and the ongoing world global economic recovery that is happening. There is another factor as well, which is the resiliency of South Asia in this crisis has been underpinned not by the lack of global integration, but in the ways and shapes and forms that South Asia is integrated. For example, remittances have proved extremely resilient in this crisis, as has its labor-intensive exports, and not least its services exports. So these are all factors that have made South Asia's recovery from this crisis much more resilient. Indeed, the dip in growth in South Asia during 2009 compared to the peak growth year of 2007 was about 3 percentage points. Significant, but it was the least compared to all other developing regions in the world. The second theme and topic that the report covers is as this recovery gathers momentum, there are some immediate priorities and challenges. And the region, in that respect, needs to address and deal with essentially to create more fiscal space coming out of this crisis so that it can begin to have the space to deal with any future shocks and to also fund and finance its development priorities. The second needs to contain the rising inflation, and the region is already beginning, countries in the region are beginning to take those steps. And the third is to give a boost to agriculture because rising food prices have been a recent phenomenon, which is of concern in the medium term. The third topic that the report covers is really about a very different world in the medium term that faces the region after this crisis, what we call and what everyone is beginning to call the new normal. That new normal, that different world, will be one where our traditional markets in South Asia and our partners in the developed countries will be growing much slower coming out of this crisis because of the extended financial crisis, and it was the epicenter of the financial crisis. Whereas in contrast, it will be the emerging world which will be growing much faster from this crisis. So the report talks, therefore, about the challenges, both the challenges and the opportunities that South Asia has in looking forward to find new drivers and sources of growth. And within that is 3 levels of integration that it might wish to look at. The first is intensify its links with its neighbor, the fastest growing region of the world, East Asia, a $6 trillion region, and South Asia is already integrating rapidly with East Asia, so it portends well for the future. So intensify that link is the first level of integration. The second level that we talk about in the report is within South Asia itself, a region which is attracting growing interest, invested attention from the rest of the world, and as South Asia integrates with each other, it's a $50 billion increase in trade that's possible compared to the $450 billion in trade that East Asia closer integration will provide. These are large numbers and big opportunities, and it is going to attract and are complementary to each other. And the third level of integration is pursue and preserve your links with the rest of the world, and the report recommends an open regionalism approach. And in the end, I think South Asia has great opportunities ahead of itself, and the report talks about finding new drivers and new ways to grow. We talk about the manufacturing sector, a globally competitive manufacturing sector that's going to be this new source, and that will allow the region to find and to develop its potential, the demographic gift that it has, building on the past successes of using services as its main edge and sophisticated exports of it. Conflict remains an issue in the region. It is a complex issue. One of the ways that the report talks very briefly about is creating more jobs for young people is going to be the future in South Asia. So all in all, the report talks about a rebounding recovery happening and driving faster growth. South Asia is capable of growing even faster in the coming decades and make this recovery more sustained, durable, and inclusive.